apply for multiples, but the likelihood of being selected twice is slim. And so staff was recommending the possibility of an alternate project solely for the benefit of the township would be either a master study or improvements to Smith Drive. So I just wanted to apprise you of that.
When does this grant due? Do we?
I want to say April.
April 22nd.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah.
Certainly, appreciate what they're after here on this front. Want to make sure that we're making the right decision here.
For some reason, out of all of the municipalities, they chose us to ask that the commissioners consider submitting on behalf of their organization, rather than, say, for example, East Pennsboro or Silver Spring Township or what have you.
Smith Drive property, we been talking about the last several months about moving forward on that, so that's something that I think it's not just a pie in the sky, but we really are looking forward to doing.
Correct. There's funding available in the 2020 budget.
Can we see whether can we hold off on this right now and see whether we can jointly write a letter of support with Campbell and whether it's a Campbell, East Pennsboro, the entire area that it's affecting.
We certainly like the idea.
Well, you can do a letter of support. The issue is they can't direct.
Understood.
They need a municipality to sponsor.
Maybe it's a joint
What?
application amongst the municipalities or.
I'm sorry? I don't know the answer to that, Jeremy. And I'm not
What
sure.
about the Council of Governments? Could they do the honors?
I'll certainly look into both.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we agree that we're supportive of, we're certainly supportive of what they want to do. We'd love to have a bike way all the way across the county, to be true. Let's see if we can look at options to help them out. Maybe Colorado, maybe a county, or maybe, does it have to be a municipality? Could it be an authority?
I'm up here as well.
Hmm?
Carolyn had it.
Oh, I was just raising my hand because I couldn't hear Jeremy.
Oh, Jeremy needs to do, me too. So,
We got another mic like we approved before.
yes.
It's a soundproof door.
So we're gonna look into options to help these folks out, because they're doing God's work. I mean, this is good stuff.
Dave, do we have an application ready to go on that front, or when do you expect us to have an application before us to proceed with?
For this.
For Smith Drive.
For Smith Drive, we'll have it ready by the deadline in April.
The question would be, is the Smith Drive, we need to have some discussions at the appropriate time. Are you pursuing funding to complete another master study, or do you embrace the master study and want to proceed with actual physical improvements to the site?
And that's gonna call for the need to have a meeting just on that subject, because it's gonna take us, you're gonna be a whole evening talking about that, so you can't just slip that into this meeting and expect us to get anywhere on it. So-
I'll start pulling the board unavailable.
So we need to have a date that we can get together just for the purpose of that one subject. So, but it is something that we put in the budget for this year, at least to do the design work. And it may be that the plans that are sitting on the shelf can be utilized. And if so, then we can proceed.
At least partially in phases.
If not all.
Right.
Correct. Okay. All right, so then we're decided on that. Think of something else?
I have nothing further.
Okay, then moving on. Audience participation. Anything we haven't talked about so far that you want to talk about? Carolyn would like to talk to us.
Just a brief update, the county library system is implementing a radio frequency ID for the materials that you check out. It's supposed to be faster to check them out, because instead of scanning the barcode on each book individually, you can check out a whole stack of books, you can return a whole stack of books, they can process multiple books at one time. We don't know the timetable exactly. They chose a vendor in December. The project will be implemented during the course of this year. They're hopeful that it'll be completed by December. I remember putting barcodes on books, and it was a big deal. So when we put these new radio frequency ID chips into books, I can see that it would be a big deal also. But it's supposed to speed up the checkout and the return of materials. And who knows, it might reduce the staff needs, though a lot of the people who do the checking out, checking in are volunteers. So that's the update from the library.
Thank you, Carolyn. My understanding also is that the library is concerned about the increase in minimum wage because the people who work at the library, a lot of them are just getting the minimum wage. And so the budget for the library would be affected if given no
Yes,
increase.
but we're waiting for the legislature to act.
Right.
Hasn't happened yet,
Yes.
but they are aware of that.
Yes, thank you. Any questions for Carolyn? Anybody else from the audience wants to talk to us? Yes, sir.
Yes, hello, Joe Catcoson, 1606, 1610 Orangebridge Road. I was in the November meeting, if you
Yes.
recall.
Yes,
Um,
welcome back.
Thank you, and congratulations on your swearing in tonight.
Thank you.
Sorry I missed it, I had to take a important business call. I just want to follow up where the status is on what the township is doing in regards to enforcement of the zoning ordinances that I have been complaining for 18 years, over 18 years, on a shed that was placed that violates the setback requirements, the 10-foot side yard setback requirements. I have many letters from your previous enforcement officer, Darryl McMillan, regarding shed encroachments, well, not encroachments, but setback violations, where on properties I've owned that he enforced emphatically, and yet on this property, he has done nothing. Now, I know Mr. McMillan is retired, but Mr. Powers was sent out by Mr. Metz, who Mr. Metz was also to attend the meeting on the property line to be shown the setback issue. Mr. Metz failed to make the meeting. And this has been going on for over 18 years. And you haven't enforced an ordinance. And actually, I had a subdivision on the property, and there was a shed on the other side of the property that was mine. And even though I own both properties, both lots, the created new lot and the existing property, Mr. McMillan, I won't say what I'd like to say, but he was pretty much up my butt to tear down a shed that there was no other property, no house built yet on the newly created lot.
So, Mr. Catcoson, to address your question, you and I probably met and began these discussions no more than 4 or 5 months ago, by my recollection, loosely. Certainly hasn't been 18 years.
Let me correct that, sir.
Well, you couldn't correct me.
Okay, because actually in July and February of 2017, Right to Know was requested for information on the building permits regarding that shed. And actually there's some notes that I'm still researching, and I do have a lot more files to search. But I know I've been dealing with you, Mr. Metz, for quite some time.
You and I have not met face to face until about 4 or 5 months ago. I think you can concede to that. Now, at that time, we sat down and discussed what I was willing to pursue, did we not? I told you and committed to you the certain things that I was willing to pursue, with the exception that I told you there was no way I would pursue the property line dispute.
I'm not asking the property line,
Correct.
I'm talking about the setback.
And I apprised you, I've
ordinance.
provided you a copy of the letter relative to the trash toters, and I know the police department has responded. I also apprised you that we're pursuing the matter relative to the shed. An initial notice, I had explained, would be sent, and I predicted that we would not get voluntary compliance from the property owner, as you knew. So therefore, subsequently, a draft citation has been sent to the property owner, advising him of the township's concerns and status on the shed. And once he doesn't respond to that, a citation will be issued, and as I indicated, you're likely to find yourself in front of the MDJ testifying on behalf of your concerns relative to the property setback. I assured you of that. I've assured you of that numerous times. I do not know why you would think that I would not be truthful and forthcoming and forthright in that regard. but I committed to that the day we met, and that's the process that we're going through.
Well, it's simply because, again, 18 years.
I
Every
haven't
time
been
I've
dealing
asked
with
Mr.
you for 18
McMillan,
years. I haven't even been the
you've been here,
township
what, 8, 10 years, right?
I haven't been the assistant township manager or township manager for a combined total of 18 years.
I hear that.
Okay.
Was it 8 or 10 years you've basically been with the township?
2011.
To 2011, so 8 years, okay. I actually have notes and met with Mr. Bradley on this matter too. He actually was my neighbor up the street.
John hired me in 1994 with the support of the Board of Commissioners. I mean, I'm not going to go back to 1994. I'm moving forward. I told you what I would commit to and support, and I've been nothing but respectful and following up in that regard. And I assure you, someday we'll be in front of the MDJ on this matter, and then the decision will be made once and for all.
Okay, well, I asked for some confirmation of your process.
And I confirmed that. I cannot provide you with a copy of the draft citation under the right to know law, but I did respond assuring you that I'm true to my word and that action is being taken.
Okay, you have to understand, 18 years of what I'm dealing with, why I'm gonna act like this. I just want to make sure it gets resolved.
If the board wants to reprimand me for something that's happened...
I'm not
18
asking
years
the board to
ago,
reprimand you, sir. I'm just wanting to make sure emphatically that I follow through this time and that the record is made.
I assure you personally,
Okay.
what you think of me is...
I think all kinds of good things of you, sir.
Well, I hope so, and forgive me if I'm sounding abrasive, but I assured you that I would follow through with this matter.
I think that the matter has gotten to the point where it's become abrasive because the events of this man, he's a junk hauler, and you know what, the things that go beyond that, there's ordinances against residents, an accessory building being used as a residence. I forwarded a draft document from a legal deposition in the matter of his adverse possession that I forwarded you and Mr. Powers.
I'm not in the business of interpreting private legal matters. That's a civil situation.
Well, he made a statement. Mr. Powers, who has been very reluctant to say, and that's putting it very mildly, to enforce Mr. Walker, anything on Mr. Walker, as well as the police department, in the fact that Mr. Walker, John Powers said that I can't confirm that that's accessory building is being used as a residence. And Mr. Walker, in this legal deposition, which is a sworn testament and oath, under oath, that he uses the residence, uses accessory building as a residence for guests.
Right, so when we met several months ago, I promised you we'd pursue the shed. I promised you I'd pursue the toters and the placement of those toters on private property other than Mr. Walker's, as well as the illegal dumping. Those things are being followed through with, sir. I
Okay.
assure you of that. We did not make it a priority to address the power line, the property line dispute, or the accessory shed, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. You said you made it a point not to.
That was not something that we agreed and left that meeting with, where you wished to pursue that. You had bigger priorities that you were looking to resolve. The shed, the placement of his toters, and the illegal dumping on the property. Those were the three things that we walked away with the handshake understanding what would be pursued.
That is, yes, with the eventual of the operation of the landfill, the illegal landfill.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a fourth item that's not included in the three that you stated. Yes, sir.
Enforcement notices.
You are correct. We're going to go tackle these three at a time.
Very good.
The other one reason why I want to bring up one last thing about the trash dumping and the junk hauling business. Mr. Walker operates a junk hauling business. This township's very aware of it. Powers has seen him. McMillan has seen him. Everybody's seen him. He advertises on his property. He hauls junk. He places it in our public pickup. He places it in my property's front yard. Literally, not on the corner. It's 20, 30 feet over. We have video, we have pictures of him constantly bringing in multiple amounts of tires and dumping them on my property. Now what this does, we just got an increase. Now, I'm not gonna say the increase in the trash and sewer was all because of Mr. Walker's dumping. But let's just look at the point. He brings in additional items, he's paid for those items to be, that he picks up to be dumped legally at a landfill. And he actually puts them on all the township residents here, the burden of the bill. It is minor, but it's still, it affects the tonnage that we are billed by the trash haulers, am I correct? In the long run.
Hypothetically speaking, you could make that argument, but the reality of the situation is there's no maximum tonnage or surcharge for exceeding what the residents and business, well, not business owners, residents are permitted under the contract to put out. So that I wouldn't tend to agree, but is what he's doing inappropriate? If in fact it's occurring, yes, I would agree. And I would suggest, unless the chief feels otherwise, that if a property owner sees someone dumping items on their property, that they contact the police department at that time to address those concerns instead of, here we are.
Well, we have, and the officer said, I'd feel like a turd, quoting him, I'd feel like a turd if I cited Mr. Walker for dumping the trash on your property, that I've been out here multiple times.
Well,
Is that not correct, Chief?
That statement, I wasn't there, I didn't say it.
Well, you saw the emails, you were all part of the emails that.
I don't know about, I don't recall that particular interchange with any of my officers. If somebody's dumping, rubbish or items.
It's items, it's like beds, it's used toilets,
Yeah,
it's
so it
it's
would fall
couches,
under
it's
scattering.
tons of tires.
It would fall, I get it. It falls under scattering rubbish under Title 18. It's an offense. So
Why was he never cited? And this is going
let
on.
me
We've
finish,
asked you.
Let me finish. If you have that going forward, call. If my officer doesn't do, take enforcement action, you have my email, call me, and we'll make sure that it happens.
Why was it never enforced though in the 18 years I've been calling? And
So I've been
my,
here for 5.5, so I can't go back just like that. I can't go back 18 years. I'm telling you that if it happens again, call. We will go out there, take pictures, whatever you need to do. My officers should be doing the same thing. And then if they don't take the appropriate action, call me, and we'll make sure that it is done correctly. I can't answer why in the past. I wasn't there. I wasn't aware of it. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to any of the officers. So I don't have anything more to tell you than what we can do going forward.
I will say that Mr. Walker, and you have a copy of the letter, has been duly notified that he is.
I haven't received no copies of any of the letters.
I've emailed it to you twice, sir, and I can email it to you again, showing the exact date that it was sent to you. It was a letter that told him, which you didn't appreciate because I didn't tell him exactly where he was supposed to put his note.
I'm sorry, I did receive that. I thought you meant the shed letter as well.
No, that I advised you, although obviously you weren't happy about it, that I can't disclose that under the right to know law.
Even the letter, not just the cite. I thought you just said the
Because
citation.
it is referring to a draft and future likely citations, so they're letters of investigatory matters that are underway by
I understand.
the township.
Okay.
And then as far as the toters, he's been duly notified that trash produced by his place of living, residence, if you will, is only to be placed on his property. So we're trying to work with you. I'm trying to work with you. I realize you're frustrated.
It's very frustrating.
But I committed to you with a handshake on the day that we met, and I'm following through with that, I assure you.
Well, again, like I said, I just need the voice because apparently the record seems to have fallen off that, even these constant police reports, and I'm not faulting Chief Junkin either, but the officers either didn't file the reports because they couldn't find the history when I brought it to the district attorney's office for a private personal complaint. And the tracking and record is not there to follow.
But you do recognize, and I've advised you of this, and I'm sure Chief Junkin would as well, that the officers have discretionary decisions to make.
Yes, they do.
Whether
Just
or not-
like they will give you a warning if you're speeding or
Yes,
not.
sir.
And we appreciate those of us that are not, you don't see us as, a repeat offender, like Mr. Walker in his trash. Understand one thing. How would you like to come home and see a pile of old beds, old toilets, all the things I've mentioned in your front yard, on your property, well onto and into your front property.
Yeah, and I sense your frustration. I did the day that we met, and hence the reason I'm trying to do my best to meet the things that we agreed to as being the priority enforcement actions.
Okay, just on the last note about that, the reason I mentioned about the cost is, actually, I have rental properties and my tenants are all complaining about the increase. And I said, well, it was $168 for years and years and years. This township's well managed. I always compliment all the folks on, all the commissioners here, all the staff. I work a lot with this. I'm a builder developer. I mean, I don't, take a dump where I gotta eat to soften the language, as we know. It's just, when I hear the complaints, and I gotta deal with it too, and I got no answers, and then they're complaining about, increases, and they're saying, well, this is why, Joe, because this guy's dumping stuff, and it's like, I gotta represent them too as well. They're my constituents. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry to ramble on, but it's been a little bit really frustrating.
I understand, and it'll still require some time before we're actually issuing the citation and in front of the MDJ, but I assure you the timeline.
Is there any kind of timeline, do you think, that you roughly?
My best guess at this point in time would be probably 2 months out, depending upon how busy the docket is for the MDJ once the citation's issued.
Okay, I was just kind of curious, because I was looking back when Mr. McMillan, when we had the sewer come through, he was sending us citations immediately to hook up, and it's like, they just got these sewers just put in the street. They haven't even done the final patching on the road.
Right.
And we're getting citations already to hook up. We can only move so fast.
The multiple notices are such that the township can go in front of the MDJ and say, we provided advance notice to the corrective actions that needed to be taken. He was given multiple opportunities over a reasonable period of time, and he failed to do so, which would then hopefully put the case in a better light.
Okay, strengthens the case.
Yes,
and the
sir.
burden is on him.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much again. I am not, I know I sound terse.
That's okay.
I have a habit of being blamed for being terse. So
Thanks.
I appreciate your attitude. All of you.
Thanks for coming in, we appreciate it
All right, thank you.
very much. Thank you. Still with the audience, anybody else that wants to have anything to say? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on now to the legislative update. Nate Silcox.
In your packet is several items regarding legislation. Just to point out, in terms of some of our legislative priorities, the First Class Township Code has been introduced. It's House Bill 2073, and that's before it came out of the House Local Government Committee before the House. So Amy Sturgis with the League is hopeful that we will get this through the House this session and hopefully through the Senate as well. So things are moving forward on that front. The radar legislation, that's before the House as well, and we're hopeful that we can get a vote on that legislation too. So there's a packet of bills that have been signed into law. There's also several bills in there dealing with the fire package coming before the House and the Senate. So a lot of good stuff in there.
Thank you.
That belly for responses.
Right, there's two of them. Neither one of them has passed the House. There's the House Bill 1347, which is the one that we're supportive of, and then there's House Bill 1862 that we're not supportive of. Neither of them have passed the House here yet. Folks are tuned into them a lot